Wisdom, wisdom, that's the test. Which rival wisdom team is best? Quote definitions and synergies defined by Claude AI, coordinated by Grandpa Lou Valier. Take care and enjoy.
Team 40, act with conviction. Quote definitions, biographical context and synergy analysis too. Replace hate with motivationaleducation.com to guidealife.com. Quote 40.1. Be always sure you are right, then go ahead. Davy Crockett 1786 to 1836. Quote definition. Conviction-driven action has two sequential parts that must not be collapsed into one. First, the honest, careful examination of whether you are actually right. Not whether you feel right or whether it is convenient to be right, but whether honest inquiry supports the position. Then, once that examination is genuinely completed, go ahead with full commitment and without further hesitation. The sequence matters. Be sure first, then act decisively. Quote application. The mission of making America wiser and kinder requires exactly this sequence. First, the honest examination. Is this approach actually producing genuine wisdom? Is this engagement actually serving human dignity? Is this position actually right? Then, once genuine examination confirms it, go ahead fully, without the hesitation that undermines commitment. Be sure, genuinely sure, then act without reservation. Davy Crockett appears in Team 33 as well, where his principle about the tongue speaking what the heart thinks anchored the truth-telling framework. Born in 1786 in Greene County, Tennessee, Crockett lived exactly the principle he articulated. He examined his position on Indian removal carefully and concluded that Andrew Jackson was wrong, broke with his party at genuine political cost, and then went ahead with that conviction fully, losing his congressional seat rather than abandoning what he had concluded was right. His motto, often rendered as "be always sure you're right, then go ahead," was not an instruction to reckless self-confidence but a two-stage discipline, the honest examination that preceded the decisive action. He died at the Alamo in 1836, having lived the motto completely. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Invest genuine honest examination in the first stage. Be actually sure, not comfortably assumed sure, before the second stage of decisive committed action. 2. Resist the compression of the two stages into one. Acting without being sure is recklessness. Being sure without acting is cowardice. The sequence requires both in order. 3. Apply Crockett's motto to the mission. Examine every approach, strategy, and commitment honestly first. And once genuine examination confirms rightness, go ahead without reservation or the hesitation that undermines genuine conviction.
Quote 40.2. Know or listen to those who know. Baltasar Gracián 1601 to 1658. Quote definition. In any domain that matters, there are two legitimate positions. Genuine knowledge, the depth of understanding that comes from direct experience, sustained study, and careful inquiry, or genuine deference to those who possess it. What is never legitimate is confident action based on neither. Neither knowing nor listening to those who know is the operating condition of the fool, not the person of genuine conviction. Quote application. Acting with genuine conviction requires either the knowledge that justifies a conviction or the wisdom to form conviction by listening to those who possess the relevant knowledge. For the mission, this means both developing genuine knowledge about what hatred costs and what wisdom produces, and genuinely listening to communities, scholars, and practitioners who know what the mission does not yet know. Know or listen. Both are honorable. Neither alone is complete. Baltasar Gracián appears in teams 12, 16, 21, 22, 26, 28, and 39, the most frequently appearing author in the collection after Franklin and Euripides. His principle about knowing or listening reflects his consistent practical philosophy. Genuine competence is the basis of effective action, and genuine competence is built either through direct knowledge or through the honest acknowledgement of what one does not yet know combined with the genuine listening that fills the gap. He had watched enough confident ignorance produce enough disasters in the courts and institutions of 17th century Spain to understand that the third option, confident action based on neither knowing nor listening, was the most reliably destructive available approach. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Apply Gracián's binary honestly. In the domains where you act with conviction, do you know genuinely, deeply from direct experience and careful inquiry? Or are you genuinely listening to those who do? 2. Invest in both options as genuine alternatives. Deep personal knowledge where possible, genuine listening to genuine expertise where personal knowledge is insufficient. 3. Apply this to the mission's operations. In every domain the mission works in, either develop genuine knowledge or genuinely listen to those who have it, and refuse the third option of acting confidently from neither.
Quote 40.3. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. Marcus Aurelius 121 to 180 AD. Quote definition. The quality of attention, care, and genuine presence brought to any act is transformed when that act is treated as if it were the final one available. The last act receives full investment. No corner cutting on the assumption that there will be time to do better later. No partial engagement because this particular moment seems ordinary. No deferral of full commitment to a more important occasion. Treat every act as the last, and every act receives the quality of attention that genuinely matters. Quote application. Every piece of wisdom content produced, every community engagement entered, every human connection made in the mission deserves to be treated as if it were the last opportunity to do exactly that thing. Not because urgency should produce anxiety, but because the quality of attention that the last act receives is the quality of attention that every act deserves. Marcus Aurelius's standard removes the assumption of future opportunity as an excuse for present partial engagement. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD in Rome, was adopted into the imperial line at 17 by Emperor Hadrian's directive, and served as Roman emperor from 161 to 180, spending much of his reign on military campaign along the Danube frontier rather than in the comforts of Rome. He is the philosopher king that Plato described as the ideal ruler, a man who genuinely would have preferred philosophical study and who found himself instead governing the largest empire in the Western world during a period of serious external threat and devastating plague. His meditations, private notes written to himself, never intended for publication, record his sustained attempt to live according to Stoic principles in conditions of enormous practical difficulty. His instruction to do every act as if it were the last is characteristic, not morbid but clarifying, not anxious but fully present. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Bring full genuine presence to every act rather than reserving full investment for occasions that seem obviously important, because the last act receives what every act deserves. 2. Apply Marcus Aurelius's last act standard as the antidote to the partial engagement that the assumption of future opportunity enables. This interaction, this piece of content, this community relationship, treat it as the last. 3. Recognize the Stoic purpose. Not to produce anxiety about mortality but to produce the quality of full present engagement that treating the moment as genuinely final naturally generates.
Quote 40.4. The more we study, the more we discover our ignorance. Percy Bysshe Shelley 1792 to 1822. Quote definition. Genuine learning has a paradoxical structure. The more thoroughly you study any domain, the more fully you discover how much of it remains unknown. The beginner sees a contained subject that study will master. The expert sees an expanding territory whose borders recede as they advance. More study produces more discovered ignorance, not because the student is getting worse but because genuine understanding reveals the full scale of what genuine mastery would require. Quote application. This principle is the standing intellectual humility check for everyone acting with conviction. The more deeply the mission has studied hatred, wisdom, and human transformation, the more clearly it should see how much remains unknown, which is not a reason to stop acting but a reason to act with the epistemic humility that genuine study produces. More study, more discovered ignorance, better conviction. Genuinely informed rather than prematurely closed. Percy Bysshe Shelley was born in 1792 in Field Place, Sussex, educated at Eton and briefly at University College, Oxford, from which he was expelled at 19 for co-authoring a pamphlet on the necessity of atheism, and became one of the greatest English Romantic poets, whose Prometheus Unbound, Ode to the West Wind, and Adonais represent some of the highest achievements of the tradition. He drowned in a sailing accident in the Gulf of Spezia in 1822 at 29, having produced in a decade of writing a body of work that continues to be read and taught. His observation about study revealing ignorance reflects the genuine intellectual humility of a man who read voraciously, philosophy, science, history, literature across multiple languages, and who found that each new domain of study opened into further depths rather than closing into satisfied completion. He died at 29, still discovering how much he did not know. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Welcome the discovery of ignorance that genuine study produces as evidence of genuine intellectual engagement rather than as discouragement. More study revealing more ignorance is the sign of a mind genuinely growing. 2. Apply this paradox as the standing check on acting with conviction. The conviction grounded in genuine study will be accompanied by genuine awareness of what is not yet known, which makes it more reliable rather than less. 3. Use Shelley's principle to maintain the continuous intellectual humility that makes genuine wisdom possible. The mission that studies deeply discovers its ignorance regularly, and that discovery is the condition of the genuine wisdom that matters.
Quote 40.5. The tongue like a sharp knife, kills without drawing blood. Buddha 563 to 483 BC. Quote definition. Words inflict real harm, damage to dignity, to reputation, to self-concept, to the trust that makes human community possible, without leaving the visible evidence that physical injury produces. The knife's harm is immediately apparent. The tongue's harm can be invisible to observers and even to the speaker while being as real, and as devastating to its target as any physical wound. Bloodless killing is still killing. Quote application. Hatred operates almost entirely through the tongue. The words, the labels, the dehumanizing language that makes cruelty toward the labeled group feel justified or even righteous. Buddha's sharp knife is the operating instrument of the hatred the mission addresses, which is why the mission's work must address language specifically. The words that kill without drawing blood are the primary mechanism through which hatred does its damage and must be replaced by the words that heal. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was born around 563 BC in Lumbini, in present-day Nepal. Raised as a prince in conditions of deliberate shielding from suffering, encountered old age, sickness, and death for the first time as a young man, renounced his princely life, spent years in extreme ascetic practice, achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, and spent the remaining 45 years of his life teaching the Dharma, the path that leads from suffering to liberation. Across the Ganges plain, he appears in Teams 7 and 15 as well. His observation about the tongue as a sharp knife reflects one of the central concerns of Buddhist ethics. Right speech, one of the 8 elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, which holds that words are actions with genuine moral consequences, capable of causing real harm or real healing, and therefore requiring the same careful ethical attention as physical actions. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Apply genuine ethical attention to language, to the words used about groups, about individuals, about the targets of contempt and prejudice, as the domain where the killing without drawing blood most consistently occurs. 2. Recognize that the bloodless wound is still a wound. The dehumanizing label, the contemptuous dismissal, the hateful characterization, all of these cut as the sharp knife cuts, regardless of the absence of visible blood. 3. Apply Buddha's sharp knife to the mission's core work. The replacement of the tongue's killing words with words of genuine wisdom and human dignity is not marginal to the mission, but its primary practical field of action.
Quote 40.6. Failure is impossible. Susan B. Anthony 1820 to 1906. Quote definition. The conviction that failure is impossible, stated by someone who spent 50 years in the face of repeated practical setbacks, is not a denial of difficulty, but a declaration about ultimate trajectory. What is genuinely right and genuinely pursued cannot permanently fail, because every setback is a temporary condition in a long arc that bends toward the just outcome. The person who holds this conviction does not deny the difficulty, they deny its permanence. Quote application. Susan B. Anthony's declaration is the most compressed available statement of the ultimate conviction that drives the mission of making America wiser and kinder. Failure is impossible, not because the work is easy or the outcomes are guaranteed in the short term, but because what is genuinely right and genuinely pursued cannot be permanently denied. The mission holds this conviction. Failure is impossible. Susan Brownell Anthony was born in 1820 in Adams, Massachusetts, into a Quaker family with a deep tradition of activism, and spent 56 years working for women's suffrage, from her first women's rights convention in 1848 to her death in 1906. She was arrested for voting in the 1872 presidential election and convicted. She was fined $100 and refused to pay it. The 19th Amendment, which guaranteed women the right to vote, was ratified in 1920, 14 years after her death. Her final public speech, delivered at her 86th birthday celebration 6 weeks before she died, ended with the words, "Failure is impossible." She did not live to see the amendment pass. She delivered the conviction anyway, because she understood that the ultimate trajectory of what was genuinely right could not be permanently reversed. The amendment passed. She was right. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Hold the conviction that what is genuinely right and genuinely pursued cannot permanently fail, not as naive optimism, but as the earned understanding of the long arc of justice. 2. Apply Anthony's declaration specifically to the moments of greatest discouragement. Failure is impossible not because difficulty is absent, but because temporary setback is not permanent defeat. 3. Carry this conviction as the deepest available motivation for the mission. The work of replacing hatred with wisdom and making America genuinely kinder cannot permanently fail, because it is genuinely right.
Quote 40.7. The surest test of discipline is its absence. Clara Barton, 1821 to 1912. Quote definition. Genuine discipline, the internalized commitment to standards of behavior and practice, is most reliably revealed not when it is maintained under external enforcement but when the external enforcement is absent. Anyone can follow rules when watched. The person of genuine discipline maintains the standard when no one is watching, when there is no external consequence for deviation, when only the internalized commitment remains to enforce what structure otherwise provided. Quote application. The genuine conviction that drives the mission must be tested by its own absence of external enforcement. In the moments when no one is watching the quality of the work, when no external accountability exists for the honesty of the engagement, when only internal commitment maintains the standard. Clara Barton's test is the standing challenge. How does the mission perform when structure's absence leaves only discipline to uphold what structure would otherwise enforce? Clara Barton was born in 1821 in North Oxford, Massachusetts, worked as a schoolteacher and then a patent office clerk, and became the most celebrated humanitarian of the Civil War, organizing the collection and distribution of supplies to wounded soldiers at the front lines when the official medical infrastructure had collapsed, tending to the wounded at Antietam and other engagements with a combination of genuine medical skill and extraordinary physical courage. She founded the American Red Cross in 1881 and served as its first president until 1904. Her observation about discipline and its absence comes from a woman who had operated for years in conditions where external structure was absent, at the front lines, in disaster zones, in the organizational gaps that official institutions had left unfilled, and who had discovered that the only reliable standard in those conditions was the internalized discipline of genuine personal commitment. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Test your own discipline honestly in the moments of its absence. When no one is watching, when no external consequence enforces the standard, when only internal commitment remains, what quality does the work maintain? 2. Invest in building genuine internalized discipline rather than the externally enforced compliance that disappears when the enforcement does. 3. Apply Barton's test to the mission. In the absence of external accountability, does the quality of the work, the honesty of the engagement, and the genuine commitment to human dignity hold, or does it reveal that what was present was compliance rather than conviction?
Quote 40.8. A majority is always better than the best repartee. Benjamin Disraeli, 1804 to 1881. Quote definition. The most brilliant wit, the sharpest argument, and the most devastating comeback, however satisfying, cannot substitute for the actual support of enough people to make something happen. Numbers win votes, repartee wins applause. The person of genuine conviction who wishes to act in the world must build majorities, not just win debates, because the best argument without the votes is still a loss. Quote application. For the mission of making America wiser and kinder, Disraeli's practical observation is the standing reminder that winning the argument is not the same as winning the change. Building the broad community of genuine support, person by person, conversation by conversation, relationship by relationship, is the work of building the majority that makes the repartee's brilliant point irrelevant. Change requires both the right argument and enough people convinced by it. Benjamin Disraeli appears in teams 11 and 37 as well. Born in 1804 in London, baptized Anglican at 12 despite his Jewish heritage, Disraeli served twice as Conservative Prime Minister and was one of the great parliamentary debaters of the Victorian era. His repartee in House of Commons was legendary, and he defeated Gladstone in direct debate more than once on the strength of wit and rhetorical brilliance alone. His observation about majorities beating the best repartee comes from a man who had won debates and lost votes, and who had concluded from that experience that the practical currency of democratic change was not argument but consensus. He built majorities through political coalition, through policy compromise, through the long, patient work of bringing enough people along, and he knew from direct experience that the building was harder and more important than the brilliant argument that preceded. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Invest in building genuine broad support, person by person, community by community, as the primary work of making genuine change, not merely winning the argument that the change is right. 2. Apply Disraeli's practical realism to the mission. The work of replacing hatred with wisdom requires enough people genuinely change to constitute the majority that makes the cultural shift real, not just the best argument for why it should happen. 3. Balance the repartee, the sharp observation, the well-turned wisdom, the compelling argument, with the patient relationship building that converts winning the argument into winning the actual change.
How they work together as a unified philosophy to replace hate with motivational education to guidealife.com. The Act with Conviction Framework. Grounding layer. Be sure then act and know or listen, quotes 1, 2. Crockett. Establish the two-stage discipline of genuine conviction. Honest examination first, decisive committed action second, preventing both the recklessness of acting without examining and the cowardice of examining without acting. Gracián. Provide the knowledge foundation that makes the examination genuine. Either develop real knowledge or genuinely listen to those who have it, refusing the third option of confident action grounded in neither. Together, the sequence and the foundation of acting with genuine conviction. Crockett demands both stages in order. Examine genuinely, then act decisively. Gracián ensures that the examination is grounded in real knowledge rather than comfortable assumption. Know deeply or listen genuinely. Together they describe the fully honest foundation of conviction, grounded in real knowledge, examined honestly, then acted on decisively. Presence layer. Last act quality and study revealing ignorance, quotes 3, 4. Marcus Aurelius. Demand the quality of full present engagement for every act. Treating each as if it were the last removes the assumption of future opportunity as an excuse for present partial commitment. Shelley. Provide the intellectual humility that sustains genuine conviction across genuine learning. More study reveals more ignorance, which makes conviction more genuinely informed rather than prematurely closed. Together, the quality and the humility of conviction-driven action. Marcus Aurelius ensures that every act receives the full presence that the last act would receive. No deferral, no partial engagement, no assumption of better future opportunity. Shelley ensures that the conviction is continuously tempered by the honest discovery of ignorance that genuine study produces, more learned, more aware of what remains unknown, more genuinely informed. Act fully present. Hold conviction with earned intellectual humility. Conviction layer. Tongues killing power and failure's impossibility, quotes 5, 6. Buddha. Name the primary instrument of the harm the mission addresses. The tongue that kills without drawing blood. Establishing that words are the field where the mission's conviction most directly operates. Anthony. Deliver the deepest available statement of ultimate conviction. Failure is impossible, as the unwavering commitment that sustains everything the mission does through every setback and every period of invisible progress. Together, the battleground and the ultimate conviction of acting with conviction. Buddha's sharp tongue identifies exactly where the mission's conviction must be most actively deployed, in the field of words and language where killing without blood occurs. Anthony's failure is impossible provides the deepest available motivation for maintaining that deployment through every difficulty. What is genuinely right and genuinely pursued cannot permanently fail, and this mission is both. Action layer, discipline tested by absence and majority over repartee, quotes 7, 8. Barton. Establish the ultimate test of genuine conviction. Discipline maintained in the absence of external enforcement, ensuring that what drives the mission is internalized commitment rather than externally maintained compliance. Disraeli. Provide the practical intelligence for converting conviction into actual change, majority over repartee. Reminding that winning the argument is not the same as winning the change, and that building broad genuine support is the work that makes conviction consequential. Together, the authenticity and the practical effectiveness of acting with conviction. Barton's test of absence confirms whether the conviction is genuine. The standard maintained without external enforcement is the genuine article. Disraeli's majority principle ensures that genuine conviction is converted into actual change, not just brilliantly argued, but broadly enough built to make the change real. Genuine conviction, tested by absence, converted into the majority that makes it matter.
Free Easy Extra Advantage Math, Spelling and Reading Workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom Workbooks with octo repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free Easy Alpha Cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our learning to spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms. Like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults. You can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today.